this is Scott from electrometal.com, and it's time for another edition of What's Spinning. This edition of What's Spinning is going to be part 3 in my Christian metal series that I started several months ago. Part 1, I did mostly traditional heavy metal bands. Part 2 was all speed and thrash metal bands. Part 3 is going to be all doom metal.
Doom metal.
And when it comes to doom metal, there's many different styles of doom, kind of like there's many different styles of thrash or death. It's all kind of splintered and bands try and sound unique. So, but when it comes to doom, there's basically 3 categories that I'm going to kind of focus on. There is the traditional doom bands. You kind of have that Saint Vitus or Pentagram sound. Those are kind of the prototypical doom bands. When it comes to traditional doom metal. And then there's the more epic doom bands, kind of like Candlemass, that kind of have that more epic sound with the very operatic kind of vocal styles. And then the last kind of one I'm going to focus on a little bit is kind of death doom metal, where it's got the real deep, dark, growly vocals and I don't know, it just mixes death metal with doom metal. So anyhow, those are the 3 categories I'm going to focus on, but we're going to go with the traditional bands first, and I'm going to start off with my absolute favorite doom metal bands. And this band has about 7 albums out, but Place of Skulls. This one I'm showing here is their very first album. This is called Nailed. And of course this is, as you can see on the little sticker here, this is Victor Griffin of Pentagram. It's his band. And like I said, they have about 7 albums out. They have several albums released on vinyl and CD. I'm not sure that this one's ever been released on CD, but just a fantastic album. If I'm not mistaken, they do a cover of an Animal song in here, which is really fantastic. Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood. So yeah, fantastic traditional doom metal. I'm not going to play a clip of Place of Skulls here, because just do a quick search on YouTube. You can find tons of Place of Skulls on there. Just fantastic traditional doom band. If you like Pentagram, chances are you're going to like Place of Skulls. Victor Griffin is just, he's got his own sound, his own style, his own charisma. And that charisma that you heard in Pentagram, you're going to hear in Place of Skulls as well. So, next up is Last Chapter. And I'm going to actually show 2 albums by them. I showed this one in my recent video because somebody sent me a copy of it. Metal Ron sent me an extra copy of this, which I've already passed on to another friend, because I've had this one for a long time. And this actually features Solitude Alternative vocalist Robert Lowe. And this one kind of, saying it's traditional doom, it mostly is traditional doom, but it also can sound kind of epic as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a real quick clip in right here. So there you go, Last Chapter with Robert Lowe on vocals. Those guys only released 2 albums I know of. These are the only 2 I have by them. The only 2 I believe are available. This being their first album. And then, of course, their second album, Path to Always, which had a different singer on it, actually. I'm trying to think of Peter Green, I believe, was a... Peter Green? That could be wrong. Let's see here. Steve Green. Steve Green was the vocalist on this album. But again, it's still a fantastic record, or CD, I guess, by a very vastly underrated, unknown traditional doom metal band, Last Chapter. Okay, so next up is Pylon, or Pylon. These guys are from the UK, I believe. This is, again, traditional doom metal, very much in the vein of, like Pentagram or Saint Vitus or that kind of thing. And this is Homo homini lupus, I believe is how you say it. I'm sure that's Latin. No idea what it means. I'd have to look it up, and I didn't bother to look it up before this video. But this is what's been playing in the background during this entire time I've been playing this. This particular album was released on Rox Records. They have 4, 5, 6 other albums before this one. But this one, if you bought the original 100, it came autographed, which this one is. It's actually not the cover that's autographed. Here's the cover that comes with the booklet. This is actually a card that came with the autographs on it, and then it's got some other releases on Rox on there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a clip of this band. But before I do, on this other album that they put out, which I also think is great. This one was released on vinyl, by the way. The Harrowing of Hell, and I do have that as well. They do a fantastic cover of Black Sabbath's Paranoid. I don't know, everybody's covered Paranoid, but this cover is very unique. I really like it. I mean, how can you make Sabbath any doomier than they already are? Check it out. So there you go. Pylon, The Harrowing of Hell, and their cover of Paranoid by Black Sabbath. And then, of course, their most recent album. I'm not even going to attempt to say that again and screw it up. Like I said, Pylon. I've always been told it's pronounced Pylon. It looks like Pylon to me. Either way, great doom band from the UK. Last up in the traditional doom category is the band I'm wearing on my shirt, Troglodyte Dawn from Phoenix, Arizona. Troglodyte Dawn are a little bit different because they are not just a doom band. They do a lot of ambient music as well. So aside from this one doom record that they put out, they also have a bunch of ambient music out. I'm more into the doom than the ambient stuff, but I love this record. I've heard it a million times over. And I'm really looking forward to the Troglodyte Dawn eventually getting out their next album, which they've been talking about for years and years and years, Randy. And they're supposed to be doing a cover of an Ultimatum song on there, which I'm really looking forward to hearing, a doom metal version of a thrash metal song. Should be great. So I'm going to put a clip of them live right here. So there you go, Troglodyte Dawn from Phoenix, Arizona. That was recorded a few years ago, I believe, at the Hard Rock Cafe. So Troglodyte Dawn, and now we're going to move on to some more epic metal or epic doom. This is, of course, I don't know. I spoke to a couple people online that I know are into Christian metal, asked them who they thought I should show, and Metal Ron 777, Metal Ron 777, who also has videos on this on YouTube, suggested I show Vini Domini. And this band also has about 7 albums out, all of them on Massacre Records. This is their second album called Material Sanctuary. Probably Fall Babylon Fall, the first of my favorite. I always love the cover on this one. Yeah, definitely. I don't know if I never really consider these guys pure doom, but they definitely have a that slow, heavy, almost Candlemass-like sound. But it's like if Candlemass met Queensryche. That's kind of where they're at. Early Queensryche. That's kind of what this is going on here. And the only way I'm going to be able to describe it is just throw a quick clip in. So there you go. That's Veni Domini with the title track Material Sanctuary. I believe these guys are from Switzerland, or is it Sweden? I should look this stuff up before I do these videos. I just fly off the cuff on these things, man. I'm just sharing what I know out of my head. So, just to, like I said, though, fantastic, epic doom heavy metal. So next up we got. So what do we have up next? Okay, a couple of death doom bands. I love this album. This is their first full-length album, I believe, by Paramecium from Australia. And this is Exhumed of the Earth. Just very slow, very slow doom death metal. Definitely has the the dark guttural style vocals, not like the traditional bands have the more clean vocals. This is definitely more deathy, but just check out the beginning of this first cut. I mean, the double bass is just listen right here. There you go, Paramecium, and this, like I said, they're from Australia. I think it was Andrew Tompkins was the name of the mastermind behind this. Let me just double check and make sure I'm giving you the right information there on that. Really, they can make these types even smaller, even with glasses on. I can't read it because it's like magnifying glass. I'm pretty sure that's correct. I'm pretty sure it's Andrew Tompkins that it was the mastermind behind this band. But Mortification drummer Jason Sherlock also joined this band for a while and played on this album. And then after that, Ian Arkley from a band called Seventh Angel and My Silent Wake also played with Paramecium for a while, not on this record, but future albums. And what I want to show next, and will be the last one I'm showing, well, maybe the last one I'm showing in this episode, is Seventh Angel. This was a reunion record from, I believe, 2009 or so on Bombwork Records from the United States. But yeah, this is, of course, from, you want to say Australia, but Seventh Angel is actually from the UK. And Ian Arkley is the mastermind behind this. Now, Seventh Angel is a bit weird because their very first album, which I think I have right behind me right here, maybe? Seventh Angel, where are we at here? Seventh Angel, I don't know, maybe it's not right behind me. Here it is. The very first album was called The Torments, and this is pure thrash metal. I mean, just UK thrash metal. And then their second album came out, and it was called Lament for the Weary. And the style changed a little bit. It still had that thrash style to it, but it wasn't pure thrash anymore. They had all these like epic doom parts to it, and after that the band had broke up. They didn't release anything else. They did have a demo release that came out with some live material that I also have on Bombworks, but not until 2009 did they get back together and release this album here. And the little tag on here, the little cell tag on it says historic thrash metal icons are back with their first new album in over 15 years. For fans of Celtic Frost, Vengeance Rising, and My Dying Bride, Seventh Angel, The Dust of Years. Now, I don't think fans of Vengeance Rising or or even if you like the first Seventh Angel are necessarily going to be a fan of this. This has much more, it sounds more like My Silent Wake or My Dying Bride, like it says. So let me throw another clip of that in right here. So there you go. That's Seventh Angel. That's the opening track off of this out of The Dust of Years. This is on, like I said, Bombworks Records, and just very epic doom death metal. It doesn't have any blast beats or anything, so you really make it call death metal. It just has those more guttural vocal sounds that give it that kind of death tag. But and then finally, I can't even say, Christian metal. Christian doom metal without showing this band, and I realize this band is not Christian, but Trouble. I mean, the very word mention of Christian doom. I've always thought Trouble were more of a stoner metal, stoner rock kind of band, but I mean, they are probably the most well-known of those who call Christian doom metal. But again, Trouble were never a Christian band. Early on, Metal Blade labeled them as white metal, mostly because they hated all the Satan stuff that was going around in the early years, in the early '80s, and all the heavy metal bands doing all these just dark Satan lyrics. And these guys went for more Bible sounds, and so they released just 3 classic records in a row. Their first album, which was self-titled, now known as Psalm 9. Follow up, The Skull, and then Run to the Light. All 3 classic albums by one of the more well-known bands on Metal Blade Records. Of course, they released quite a few albums after that, but they definitely changed their sound after Run to the Light. Definitely going for a more stoner rock kind of sound, more groove to it. This is just more doomy, just doomy, slow, heavy. Love Bruce Franklin, who's the guitar player for Trouble. Love his guitar tone. He's got his own unique sound. When you hear a Trouble song, you just know it's Trouble just from that guitar sound. So I'm not going to throw a clip of Trouble in here. Most people know who Trouble are, and if you don't know who Trouble are, definitely check them out on YouTube. I'm sure you can find anything by them. Highly recommend checking out any of the songs from Psalm 9, which is still among my favorite albums of all time. So that's it for this episode of What's Spinning? Christian doom metal. Hope you enjoyed it. Maybe check out some of these bands, and definitely leave a comment below. Like it if you like it. Don't like it if you don't like it. And subscribe. That's it. God bless. Stay strong.